Parts. I am one of the founders of Interlay, and today I can unfortunately not be with you in person, but I'm still very happy to talk about what we've been building at Interlay and what the future has in store for us. So the talk is titled Going Hybrid, Building a Bitcoin Innovation Layer on Substrate. And really, why do we focus so much on Bitcoin? Well, Bitcoin has about 100 million users, and it's growing faster than the internet has been growing. But there's an obvious problem. Bitcoin focuses very much on mass adoption, but I think we all knew, working on Polkadot and next generation blockchains, that the innovation really happens outside of the Bitcoin ecosystem. It happens on Polkadot, Ethereum, Cosmos, on Optimism, Arbitrum, Layer 2 solutions where DeFi is built, DAOs, NFTs, identity, new things are happening there. So what we need to do is we need to combine the pursuit for mass adoption and the capabilities of Bitcoin with innovation, and that's what we're setting out to do at Interlay. We noticed that there's a couple of issues on that journey. If you look at trading for Bitcoin, then most of it is happening on centralized exchanges, and there's been obvious issues with these exchanges as the FTX and all the other companies listed here and their failure showed last year. Usability of Bitcoin in second layer solutions, like the actual innovation on Bitcoin, is quite custodial, just because the usability is very complex. So most users choose to go with centralized providers. And same thing goes for DeFi currently in Bitcoin. It pretty much all happens via centralized bridges. That is like a multi-sig, or we're trusting Intel SGX instead of actually deploying a decentralized protocol. So how's Interlay different? Well, Interlay is a parachain on Polkadot, and we build a lot of core Bitcoin infrastructure and a DeFi hub layer. So let's an entity. Interlay works way more like DAI and Maker, where you have to collateralize what is actually being bridged. And also Interlay has a couple of multi-chain connectors, so we can talk and interact with the rest of the Polkadot ecosystem. We can send XCM messages to Moonbeam and Hydra and all the other parachains. And going further to that, we also now just released our DeFi Hub. So the DeFi Hub allows you and unlocks a couple of Bitcoin use cases that haven't been possible before in a decentralized way, by leveraging that Bitcoin bridge that we have under the hood. So now we added a decentralized exchange on top of it. So you have the Uniswap v2 model and the Curve v1 model. There's a lending protocol that is like Compound v2 style. And to make it a lot easier for people to use this, we have a bring your own fees, so you can try out the Interlay DeFi Hub and pay, say, in DOT or USDT or in IBTC for transaction fees. And we also have fiat on-ramps coming in via partners. And what's in the making right now is like one-click strategies. We're working on like a Bitcoin staking product that hopefully will launch very soon. Going from like a bit deeper in what we offer and why it's a hybrid chain model, right, where you have strong use cases plus programmability. Strong use cases is in the way that the bridge is designed. So the bridge uses collateral for the vaults as assets, and restaking here is one of the key primitives that we see as ultimately important for scaling any kind of collateralized protocol. And in our case, that would be using staking derivatives, and eventually it would be great if you could just restake. That means Polkadot validators would become vaults in our Interlay system as well, and you would directly secure the Bitcoin bridge with the security that comes from the core validators of the Polkadot network. If we were, or people would build that. Other than that, we can also use DeFi collateral in the form of lending and LP tokens as collateral for the vault. So vaults that they don't have to suffer opportunity cost. If they use, for example, they can supply DOT to the lending market, they get Q.dot tokens back. The Q.dot tokens are interest generating, and then they can use these Q.dot tokens to supply them as vault collateral, and the same goes for USDT and QUSDT. And that way you can leverage essentially different interest-bearing tokens and use them as vault collateral. And then one of the features that have been requested for quite a while is to have tokens that have different price exposure risks, because obviously if you lock up collateral, there's some price exposure there. So what would be possible, for example, is to also use LP tokens in the future, so that you can mirror basically a different pricing position by having a different combination of tokens that are supplied as collateral. And yeah, that's all natively possible right now on the DeFi Hub. But since I'm talking about hybrid chains, we also need to add a layer of programmability so that it's not just the core chain doing things, but there's actually smart contracts that can interact with that. And we think very strongly that the current way that you could build smart contracts that interact with Bitcoin are not working well. Bitcoin loves Rust. A lot of the Bitcoin tooling and applications that are built for Bitcoin right now, they're written in Rust. Lightning has very good Rust libraries. Nostr has very good libraries. Ordinals, the Bitcoin NFTs, been written in Rust. And the large advantage is that you can use all of these Bitcoin libraries natively inside of Substrate. So you can reuse existing code from like centralized or decentralized applications. And we do that in our parachain right now. So we use the SecP256K package that is also part of the Rust Bitcoin library. And that's a wrapper around like Bitcoin core code inside of our parachain. So we didn't need to, re-implement things in Solidity, for example, that already existed and are well tested inside of the Bitcoin core code base. And obviously we all love Rust, right? And it does have a huge community inside of Web3 and also outside of Web3. So what do we have in store? So we're going to add these Rust smart contracts based on Ink. And this will help, interact and generate new types of products that can be run by other teams on the Interlay chain. And the whole idea here is really the Interlay chain provides a base layer. It provides a Bitcoin bridge. It provides access to Bitcoin data via a chain relay. It provides multi-connectors. It provides a basic DeFi layer, but it lets others innovate on top of that. So it gives a very solid foundation for others to build new things. And how that kind of looks under the hood is that you can, just import existing Bitcoin types. You don't need to redo everything in Solidity or other languages, and you can utilize just a Bitcoin-like client under the hood to, for example, verify Bitcoin payments. And these are just two examples. And to kind of summarize it, right? So your smart contract has the ability to tap into the runtime's liquidity via, accessing the Uniswap and the Curve V1 AMMs. People can LP from a smart contract. They can use a lending protocol. So you have all the basic DeFi primitives. But then there is a lot of room for projects to also deploy more efficient AMM contracts, for example. So like a Uniswap V3 that's focused specifically on Bitcoin, or potential other lending protocols, or you could even, develop some derivative protocols. But they all have access to the native chain's liquidity pools, which makes it a lot more efficient than if you don't have a hybrid approach. And then on the other side, on the more infrastructure side, you can access Bitcoin directly via the bridge. You can access Bitcoin data. So you can verify that data is included on the Bitcoin side. There can be simple transactions, but can also be more complex things like NFTs being sent around. And then you can also interact with other chains. We have XEM, right? So you could think about a world where you can do cross-chain smart contract calls to other chains. So let's say A-Star and Moonbeam have contracts on their chains deployed that we can interact with, or a DAO builds on Interlay and builds like a Bitcoin kind of focused DAO, but then they want to use the functionality in HydraDX, and then they can totally call that from the smart contract. But that isn't just limited, to .sama. But eventually we will have Ethereum support as well, coming with Wormhole at the moment, and eventually will be decentralized with Snowbridge. And obviously IBC has been worked on quite significantly, so there's also a good chance that we will have connections to Cosmos chains. And really, what does that do? It unlocks a lot more use cases. We see ourselves as like building the core layer, and then other teams can focus on, for example, building trustless peer-to-peer swaps for Bitcoin. So if you wanted to swap trustlessly Bitcoin on the Bitcoin chain and USDT on the Interlay chain, then you could just implement that in a very simple smart contract that uses the Bitcoin relay. You could trade NFTs, BRC20s, also trustlessly, because you can reason about Bitcoin state in a trustless manner. You could tokenize Bitcoin mining. You could do DAO treasury management. So if DAOs want to diversify their holdings into Bitcoin as like the largest asset, that will work. Or you can also do payment integrations for, say, games or other things. And really, this is giving a tool to people to access Bitcoin and to add a programmable layer around it. And yeah, we are really here to help Bitcoin adoption. And we think the key unlocker for that is to make a really good programming layer for Bitcoin, together with an excellent bridge. And the DeFi Hub is live. Go check it out. We will have the contracts very soon on testnet, and then you can also check that out. We are very interested to work with people that are interested in Bitcoin and Rust. So if you feel like you're one of these people, please reach out to us. If you're a team looking for building a Bitcoin product, please reach out to us. And that's the end of my talk. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Dominic. All right. 好，下一个的话呢是 Parallel Finance。相信熟悉波卡生态的人都听过 Parallel